and it's really scary. So
A female woke executive or whatever she is, and she might lose her house because she can't pay her bills. Afuera. Who cares?
really need help and a job and just some support. So thank you.
I'm Marcia, producer, casting director. The last show I worked on was Generation Gap. We're just trying to keep our kids fed at this point.
Boy, should have made a product that people wanted to watch. Afuera.
Wilfredo Hernandez. I used to be a television editor, and I'm being forced to move out of my house because I'm not going to be able to afford the mortgage anymore.
Afuera. Goodbye to all of you. You know, they want us to feel bad because all these Hollywood executives that live out in very expensive Hollywood and vote left and right for all the TV shows that make fun of anybody that isn't on the leftist train, doesn't think like they do. Just watch late night comedy. All they do is rag on middle America. All they do is rag on, well, they're so stupid, the flyover country. People like me that live in middle of Tennessee. The people that hate you are suffering. And, smells so good. The pain and suffering smells wonderful. The tears are delicious. And they expect us to care. They expect us to care about systems that take care of the people doing the bad things, the people that make fun of us, the people that hate us. And in the meantime, I go to get a pound of ground beef, and it went from $3.99 to $10 in 2 years. It tripled. And I'm supposed to feel bad for the people that hate me, that can't afford to live in rich Hollywood anymore. Oh, people are tired. I'm tired. And it might sound like I'm mad. I'm not mad. I'm frustrated. It's like watching society on a motorcycle heading towards a concrete slab at 100 miles an hour, and they've decided to take the brakes off the motorcycle. And they're like, look, everybody, and you're screaming, stop doing this. You are destroying everything. And you're screaming it at the Hollywood people. You're screaming it at creators on TikTok. You're screaming it at OnlyFans content creators as they go through hundreds of men and then eventually become 35 and scream that the system's unfair because nobody wants them anymore. You're screaming at your government to stop destroying us. All we're doing is screaming. And you know what we're doing? We're yelling into the void. We're a fly in the ointment. We can't even put a wrench in the machine to stop this thing. So what do? You enjoy the decline. You have to find a way to enjoy this. I come across stuff like this, and I'm frustrated. But you know something? It's not my money. It's my tax money. Oh, if you knew the oh my God, my taxes went up so much this year. Like I'm gonna be shaking like a freezing man as I write that check to the federal government. You're taking so much of my money, all for things I hate. Thank you for your money. Now we're gonna put it towards nothing that helps you and everything that destroys our society. Bye. And they don't think that we're gonna have a problem with things. But you have to find a way to enjoy the decline. You have to find a way to make sense of it. And the way I can look at it is, you know something, I thank God I can still afford food. Thank God I can still afford to finish my house. I'll be broke by the end of it. Probably be working down at Walmart as a night stalker for 18 bucks an hour. But you know, I'm going to have solar panels so I don't have an electrical bill. And I'm going to have a well so I don't have a water bill. And I'm going to have my own home free and paid for with all the money I've saved up and invested over my previous, 35 years of working. And then I'll have no money. But the point is, at least I can then sit back and watch everything fall apart. But for younger guys, for other people that are out there that are truly struggling, they have to still be in this. If I were a 25-year-old man right now, you betcha I'd be unhappy. You betcha I would be raging against the machine. You betcha I would be very tempted, like many other people are, of just saying, I'm not going to pay my taxes this year. Screw the government. Don't do that, by the way. Don't do that, by the way. There's a reason why they're hiring like 80,000 new IRS agents, because they know what's coming. They're going to squeeze every drop of blood out of you like they're trying to get it out of a stone, but they're going to squeeze you. These are the hard times we talk about. They're here. And you can rage, and you can lose sleep, and you can be angry about it, or you can be like me, which is right now I'm frustrated. I vent to you guys because I don't have a large cadre of friends around that I commiserate over a couple of beers at the local pub. I vent to you guys, and then I turn off the content. I go over to the other side of my building here and work out a little bit. I take the dog outside and touch some grass. I go maybe check on the progress of my home that is very slowly being completed because they're having troubles finding anybody that wants to do manual labor anymore. And then maybe I jump on a video game and play games with other guys. Say what you will, it's my hobby. If Elon Musk can get into video games, then you can't shame me for doing it either. And then I vent on, we have a gilded server, and I vent to those guys, and then I have fun, and then I forget all about it, and I go to bed, and I start up the next day. And then I find something else to make me frustrated. Then I find something else to make me frustrated. And then I vent about that, and then I go to sleep. And it's an ever-repeating cycle. But you're going to have to be strong, and you're going to have to understand we've got a lot of breaking to go, and then things will get better. How bad does it get depends on how frustrated and how quickly people get, how frustrated they get. And the faster this all breaks, the sooner we can rebuild it. That's where we are. So, guys, I thank you very much for listening to my rant today. I hope you get some enjoyment out of at least watching Hollywood executive producers and show writers and watching them sell their homes and move out of Hollywood because nobody loves them anymore. That's the chef's kiss, the good news. It's all going to break. The government will run out of money. They're going to try to tax you to death for it. We'll see how things go. Until then, I'll see you in the next one.
There's so many companies that would like to build, they're sitting on gold mines. Gold mine, gold mine. It's a gold mine, gold mine, gold mine.
And we've got the pickaxes. NVIDIA's GTC event saw the unveil of its Blackwell GPU, and
let me show you how we do stuff around here. Actually, my department uses my...
I want to see it, I want to read it.
Welcome back. Today we've got quite the report for you. I'm going to be presenting information that details World of Warcraft subscriber trends. This is real data from a Blizzard presentation that took place at GDC this year. In fact, it took place like a day or two ago. Now, in doing a story like this, talking about things that's kind of leaked out, it's got to be genuinely newsworthy, it's got to serve a public interest, and given that we are talking about World of Warcraft sub numbers, I think for the audience here, that is completely obvious. Now, this will be going public eventually. GDC talks always end up being available after the fact in the GDC vault, though often at a decent bit of a delay. Now, me saying this does make it all sound very serious, and in a way it is serious. We are dealing with hundreds of millions of dollars, but mostly, this is fascinating. This charts World of Warcraft's success, its downward trend. It even confirms its lowest point in modern history. Do you want to know when WoW was at its worst? You're going to find that out today. And we even have an internal breakdown of why the Shadowlands expansion failed. And by the end...
I'll be curious to hear what that actually is.
End of this analysis, you will have the most accurate possible subscription number that can be done right now. And a subscription number for right now. We will also know WoW sub numbers for its worst periods of help, and we'll be able to compare our workings out to Blizzard and Activision Blizzard's prior statements.
Okay.
I cannot wait to get into this. If this kind of thing is tickling your brain, getting it whirring, I think you'll love today's sponsor. Boot.dev, their mission is to teach you back-end web development, which is an amazing skill, in this case, using Python and Go. And we'll, of course, be doing it the smart way by making it fun. Boot is an online self-paced platform 100% designed to get you writing tons of code, and not just any code, because by working through RPG game-inspired problems, well, it's actually fun and it leverages things you already know. Boot itself has got quests, levels, XP, and achievements to keep it addicting, and you can even get 25% off the first purchase using...
So is this for like shoes?
They have an incredible, very complete and in-depth learning path that also leverages the things that we like, with roleplay being woven through the courses. Things like developing and deploying a Pokedex, learning object-oriented programming concepts by working through RPG combat examples. Basically, it's an approach that is leveraging the understanding you already have to help those concepts click and to keep it fun. And what's around the learning matters as well, be it their Discord community, their open communications with their monthly posts, the Boot.dev Beat, which keeps you in the loop with new content. As an example, they've this month shipped upgraded weekly streaks as a feature. There are community boss battles, so that's also cool. And yeah, there you'll see all the comings and goings of the platform. It's just a really awesome package, and you can check them out today at boot.dev/Bellular, where Bellular gets you 25% off your first purchase. And that's backed by a no questions asked 30-day money-back guarantee. We've got free demos of all of our courses.
That's pretty good.
And that's what. First, we've got a graph of subscribers.
Okay.
This is something we've not got in a decade. Blizzard stopped reporting them during Warlords of Draenor because, the sub numbers went down pretty damn big.
They were bad.
Anyway, you see the numbers be pretty good for the launch of Legion. We see Legion lose players, then flatten out. BFA bumps us up, but not by as much as I thought, to be honest. But immediately after BFA, we do see awful months. And what we're actually looking at here is a rolling average of World of Warcraft subscribers. It does not get any more real than that. Now, at the time of Classic's launch, we heard that it just about doubled WoW subs, and this graph absolutely does back that up. Classic then was
not a surprise. A lot of people probably were playing Classic back then. I mean, Classic was like, it was probably one of the biggest game releases ever. It was insane.
As we were moving into Shadowlands, of course, given the pandemic, it just did incredibly well. But that was followed by crippling failure. And when we zoom in, we see the unbroken line is the actual subs, the dashed line is the expected subs. You can see Shadowlands dropped like a rock, and unlike Legion and BFA, Classic existed during those initial quarters of Shadowlands.
It did.
Looking at this, you may think that TBC and Wrath Classic didn't help much. Remember, TBC, Wrath Classic, and regular World of Warcraft all show the same subscription. So even if TBC was doing pretty decently, that could very much be cancelled out by the performance of
I think that's what it was. Because TBC, like, I do think that, like, classic, like vanilla WoW, 2004 WoW, that's what is going to be the most popular. Now, a lot of people seem to still be rating in Wrath, and, like, actually that might not be true. But, like, to me, I thought classic was, like, really the big one. And also, I would argue that with Wrath and Burning Crusade, this number would have been even lower if it didn't have this. I think that if anything, the Shadowlands numbers would have gone down into the fucking dirt. Because you've got to remember, like, that was also at the exact same time as, like, that whole sexual harassment lawsuit and everything like that. Because Burning Crusade came out on, like, what, June 2nd or something like that, 2021? So that was, like, 2 months afterwards. Was only, like, this much down? I don't know, man. TBC Phase 2 Pay to Win killed it? Yeah, it definitely hurt a lot. The boycott? Yeah, true. Applies to BFA too. Well, BFA was pretty far back in the past. Like, that wasn't really the same thing. But, like, I would say that the Shadowlands, like, content drought was 1,000 times worse than BFA. Because, like, at least with BFA, people still had hope for Classic. With Shadowlands, it was already over.
Shadowlands. And of course, it's very much not a surprise when we see this labeled as...
And also, as I said, the beginning of Shadowlands was a great game. The problem was really that they didn't innovate and make the game, you know, they didn't change the game fast enough. I really had a lot of fun playing Shadowlands the first couple months.
quickly
It was great.
by churn. Yeah, we all knew that. This here is hearing it from Blizzard directly. Now, next, here's another slide for us to look at, and this one gets really interesting. This is a breakdown of why Shadowlands didn't work in their estimation. They say Afterlife setting wasn't accessible, new antagonist wasn't developed.
Afterlife setting wasn't accessible. I think the reason why it wasn't accessible is they didn't try to have enough, like they tried to invent their whole own mythology for it. And I think that if they had made it more in line with like kind of existing mythology, I think people would have at least been able to understand it better.
Well-known story heroes were diminished. I mean, does that match how Shadowlands felt to you? Certainly does for me. And this one, straight from the horse's mouth, is the closest that we will see to Blizzard just saying straight up, this whole thing was a mistake. We shouldn't have done it. We've ruined our iconic heroes. The villain sucked. As for
it even says well-known story heroes were diminished. I mean, they're probably talking about like Arthas, etc. Maybe not hero in that case, but you know what I mean. I think this is definitely true. I mean, Shadowlands new antagonist wasn't developed. That's really the problem. Like, I think the Jailer could have been a fantastic like antagonist, a fantastic boss, but it just wasn't developed. That's all there was to it. Yeah, who cares?
As for gameplay, they say it lacked variety, borrowed power was there in the bin, systems were not evolving. What I get, they were just iterating.
Very fucking true. Absolutely. They are totally on the money with this.
I guess I can.
Doing the same thing again and again and again.
Yep.
And when we think about variety, I mean, hey, 16 months in the Sanguine Depths, does that sound good to you? Vitally, they call out community specifically, saying gaps in content, lack of transparency, didn't feel heard.
I mean, totally fucking accurate. Absolutely. It's great to see Blizzard just, there it is.
I mean, it's all shit that we said, right?
But Denathrius is cooler than Jailer. Everybody did.
A lot of Team 2 members were not happy at this period of time. There's a phrase I could say referring to some cliques, but I will not say it because it would be revealing and that would be irresponsible. But that kind of thing was going on. On the other side is there...
Well, this was also at the... Shadowlands, like, this was in the middle of that sexual harassment lawsuit in California. It was huge. So, yeah, absolutely.
There's been quite a lot of staff turnover since the Shadowlands. Anyway, TLDR, it was a little bit of a shit show, and I think that absolutely did show in your public communications. The question for us is, does
which makes sense.
This slideshow feel like it's being internalized by the team? I mean, literally, in some ways. Game-wise,
I think that, yes, they have internalized these things, and I think Dragonflight fixed a lot of the problems that were in Shadowlands. Dragonflight has some of the same problems, like I was saying, like add-ons, like raids, stuff like that, right? But in terms of like these issues, they have fixed a lot of these issues with Dragonflight, which is good.
I very much think so. The state of core class design is better than it's been in years. Mythic Plus is at an all-time peak. I've got a report coming out on that next week. By the raw numbers, it is literally the best it has been through all of this current WoW expansion. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's go back to some of the numbers. So we're taking a look.
I wish I enjoyed Mythic Plus because I just don't. Like, I'm sorry, I don't find it to be fun. Like, it's just,
at the launch of Dragonflight, and that must have been a terrifying thing for them. Its launch did not bring them back to their earlier Shadowlands numbers. That is dire, and it reflects an abnormally weak marketing campaign, one of their worst expansion cinematics, and an expansion that felt almost unexciting by design.
Whoa, wait a second. So none of this is even about the release, none of this is post-release of Dragonflight at all. So we don't even know how well Dragonflight is doing in terms of actual numbers. Because this graph ends whenever Dragonflight, like, not yet? Okay, maybe there's another one. All right, cool. They show it? Great.
That is dire, and it reflects an abnormally weak marketing campaign, one of their worst expansion cinematics, and an expansion that felt almost unexciting by design, which I kind of understand. How can you have a massive villain arc right after you tried to pull the Jailer? Right after you wheeled out developers to claim in marketing materials that the Jailer's demise is in fact the closing of a book that began in Warcraft 3. That was completely insane. And feature-wise, it didn't have any insane hyper-marketing feature like artifact weapons. And there was even mismatch with audience expectations with the new race.
This was really stupid. I thought these were so stupid. I still do.
Take and playable Dragon King
I never even
were
played one.
nothing like what Warcraft as a franchise had led people to desire or expect. But for all of that, and indeed because of some of that, it did focus on the essentials: class design, talents, public events, basic personal content creators. Let's see then what investing in these core foundational things actually gets you. Looking at the Dragonflight sub numbers, we see that initially pretty mid, actually. The initial content seemed to do okay. Not amazing. It clearly did have a lower churn rate than what we would have expected.
So now we have Dragonflight Season of Discovery. Holy shit. Oh my god. Wow.
Things get wild is mid-2023 and beyond. So what happened? Well, Classic Hardcore, both unofficial and official, kicked off.
Yeah.
There was a revamp of gearing in Modern WoW, and that I cannot overstate the importance of, because for so many people, gear literally makes them go and play the game. So yeah, fix up gearing, people start playing more. So
imagine now.
BlizzCon then was huge. It got the vibes right, and instead of a woohoo happy trailer, we got something with meat, with emotional depth, with compelling vocal performances, and
I will say that, in my opinion, I actually like the Dragonflight cinematic more than this one. This is my opinion. I thought this cinematic sucked. I didn't like it.
Amazing animation, was leading, and of course, Season of Discovery, which was launched quite shortly after. You would be forgiven for assuming that this spike is all Season of Discovery, but some numbers suggest that's not all the case. As an example, we've just published our report of Mythic Plus activity to our members and our analysis of Night Stalker's numbers. That'll be up on the channel next week. The core thing, though, is that Season 3 of Dragonflight, in terms of the number of runs done, is demolishing Season 1 and demolishing Season 2.
Wow.
We looked into raid statistics, we've been seeing retention numbers that are essentially unparalleled in recent history. Pretty interesting. This slide then draws us a few points of comparison. Right now,
I haven't seen that video. I have to
has
see
as
it.
many subs as it did partway through the classic spike back in the days of BFA. It's just shy of Shadowlands' flash in the pan, and it actually looks as strong as Legion. Does it feel like that, though? Does the community feel like that? The answer is no, and there are many reasons, but a big one.
I think the big reason, well, I mean, exactly. Yeah, he's right. There it is. That's the reason. He's right, 100%. It's because retail WoW has a big audience of people. It does. A lot of people play retail WoW. Absolutely. However, there's a lot of people that play Classic, people that play Season of Discovery, people that play Wrath of the Lich King. And so, like, all of these different versions of the game are all aggregated into the same subscription. So whenever you see that it's like, oh, there's this many subscriptions, how many people are subscribing for each different type of content, you can't really know that. Like, you're guessing. That's really the best way you can do it, is you're just guessing. And so, and that's the same with me, right? Even I'm guessing. But what I do think is happening is that the retail WoW community, it's not the entire WoW community anymore. There's like Classic WoW and Season of Discovery and Wrath. Well, I guess like Wrath is Classic WoW. But the point is that that's why it doesn't feel as big, is because the entire audience isn't consolidated in the same way that it was in like 2018. Or Legion.
Discovery and Modern have all got different player bases. We literally don't see each other. We don't watch the same YouTubers and watch the same Twitch people, right?
Yeah.
So together, we're producing Legion-like subscription numbers. It doesn't feel like that because we're actually logging into different versions of what we want.
Exactly.
That, I think, is an important factor.
And that's why, like, Legion felt a lot bigger, in my opinion, because everybody that was subbed for Legion. Everybody was playing Legion, whereas like now it's spread out between 3 or 4 different versions.
World of Warcraft is, I think, very much in an upswing.
And by the way, like, it's a good thing. This is overall a good thing, because that means that you're gonna have way more people collectively playing the game.
Modern WoW is still short of...
You're serving
Legion,
more customers.
Because Legion produced these numbers by itself, without a Season of Discovery, without a Classic. But still, I truly believe it is on an upswing. Basically, what they need to do is the hard work and just making stuff.
I think that retail WoW is in a position where it will just like slowly probably go down in numbers, but they're making retail WoW for the people that like playing retail WoW. Personally, I feel like the game has diverged so much from what I want out of an MMO that it's very hard for me to think about playing retail WoW seriously anymore because I've just done it so many times. It's literally going up. Well, we don't know if it's going up or not. Mythic Plus numbers are going up, but is that indicative of the entire population of the game? I don't know about that. I don't really think so, but it's a point on the graph.
Dragonflight is a great version of World of Warcraft as a game. The game mechanics, brilliant. The types of play, the reward schema, massive improvements. But it was not a great representation of what Warcraft, the franchise, Warcraft Emotions, Warcraft the world is setting. It's no wonder that they are leaning into more core Warcraft things with the War Within.
It's interesting to me to see that so many people are like very adamant about that I'm wrong about this and that Mythic Plus is retail WoW. I would assume that less than half of the people that play retail WoW do Mythic Plus. Absolutely. Like, yeah, I don't think so. I think it's probably like 20% of people, if I had to guess. Because you have to assume that like retail WoW, like there's like a large, like unwashed masses of people that just play the game really casually. 25% maybe. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I'm not really going to go and look at retail WoW, like Mythic Plus numbers, and then say to myself, oh yeah, this means that WoW is doing well. Now, for all intents and purposes, it looks like Mythic Plus is doing well. It does, which is like, to me, and this is what I said before, is like, I don't like Mythic Plus. I don't find it fun. There are a lot of people that do. So it's like, at a certain point, maybe the game's just not for me. Delves will be for you. Maybe that's it. Yeah, I mean, I haven't liked Mythic Plus ever since Legion. I liked Legion Mythic Plus. I didn't like a BFA Mythic Plus or Shadowlands Mythic Plus. I really feel like keys are the best thing added to the game for myself personally. I would like Mythic Plus if it was capped. I don't like the fact that it's infinitely scaling. It might sound stupid, but I don't like content that you can't beat. I wish that the, what do you call it? Like the meta of the game was like speed running plus 20s rather than trying to push 28s or 30s. I find that more interesting and cooler. That's my opinion.
And why they are set to both Midnight and The Last Titan.
It's reworked for Season 4?
So
Yeah, I remember looking at that.
Modern WoW, as a subset of World of Warcraft, has a long way to go, and I think is absolutely on the upswing.
See the numbers.
Now it's time to talk about some numbers. Okay, we cannot do exact ones here, but we can try. Our last official number is 5.5 million. That was a few quarters after they plummeted from the Warlords of Draenor launch spike of 10 million. And guess what? Based on what they did say in prior earnings calls, we can get a workable subscriber number estimate for now that is basically as accurate as you can do.
Okay.
So, Warlords of Draenor's low was 5.5 million. When Legion launched, a misunderstanding with a journalist led to a number of 10.1 million subs being reported.
Yeah, I remember
Blizzard
seeing
said
this.
that was false. They didn't provide a number though. But enter this: the Q1 2017 earnings report. So that's Q1 17. Legion released in Q3 the prior year, and this is what it says. Legion's overall performance is slightly ahead of the prior expansion. Now, this is obviously not perfect data, but, you know, 2 to 3 quarters post-launch, WoD was about 5.5 million, so what is their definition of slightly? If it's only 5%, then that would put Legion at a similar point in its cycle at 5.8 million subscribers. If we take this as a starting point, we can have a lot of fun. Okay, if we're at 5...
So he's saying that this is 5.8 million because the frame of reference is referring to the same point in Warlords of Draenor that was also about 5.5 million. Pull me up. This is where Bellior fucked up. He's wrong. Okay. Explain why. No, I think that what I think I know what he's going to say. He's going to say that whenever they're referring to performance, they're talking about the amount of money that the game is making and not the amount of subscribers. Yeah. Yeah, I think he brings up a very good point. If Legion is performing well, that doesn't necessarily mean that these subscriptions are performing well. And he does make up a good point. Because, like, for example, you have, like, obviously, towards Legion, there were a lot of people coming back. They were adding more microtransactions into the game. The WoW token had been added. The WoW token got added towards the end of, what do you call it? Towards the end of WoD. Like, probably, like, 70% through the expansion, something like that. So you would assume that the performance that would be referred to, do we know that performance is referring to subscriptions, or do we know that it's referring to revenue? It doesn't mean subs. Yeah, the WoW token took off with the moose. Yeah, you remember the moose is loose. Everybody started buying mooses. So I don't know if this is indicative of subscribers or revenue. The fact they added tokens into the garrison economy, something or something. Yeah. Look at the rest of the games on the list. They talk about players, bringing players back into the game. Time spent, daily active users is Hearthstone.
Obviously not perfect data, but, you know, 2 to 3 quarters post-launch, WoD was about 5.5 million, so what is their definition of slightly? If it's only 5%, then that would put Legion at a similar point in its cycle at 5.8 million subscribers. If we take this as a starting point, we have a fun. Okay, if we're at 5.8 million 2 quarters after Legion launched, then you just draw a horizontal line, you see that we hit about 5.8 million with the launch of Guardians of the Dream. Since then, it's hard to say because the y-axis isn't labeled, but
yeah, sure.
If you are to assume that the y-axis starts at 0 and you count 5.8 million in pixels, you work out a sub per pixel value, and then you do the maths, then we get 7.25 million subscribers right now. And yes, this is a rough estimate, but guess what? We'll be able to prove that the y-axis actually does start at 0. So, while this is rough, I think you can see the fairly clear logic here, and at least it's a pretty damn good ballpark. But let's get a bit spicy.
I think that Belluar is right if that earnings call, like his argumentation and logic is extremely sound, and I actually think that he creates a very good argument of why this is true if performance and performance and how well the expansion is doing is referring to subscription numbers and not revenue. But I think that if it's referring to revenue, and I think that it is revenue and not subscription numbers, because it's an earnings call, not a, basically a health report on World of Warcraft. I think it's revenue. Then I don't think that it's indicative because of how many extra microtransactions were added in Warlords of Draenor. I just don't think so. So 7 million would be crazy. Yeah, exactly. Earnings call equals revenue. Yeah, and it would logically make sense that the earnings call would be referring to revenue and not subscribers. Worlds of Draenor sold 3.3 million copies over the first 24 hours. Over 3.3 million copies of World of Warcraft Legion are sold during the game's worldwide launch. Both of them sold 3.3 million copies during a 24-hour period. I think this is what they're referring to, not subscriptions. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, I wish Blizzard would just come out and say, like, maybe if we argue about it long enough, Blizzard will just be like, no, actually retail is really popular and here's the numbers and you're wrong. Okay, all right, well that settles it. Or, nope, Classic's carrying and retail sucks, we're doing our best. Like, I really wish they would just come out and say what's going on. But I don't think that they ever will because, I mean, really, like, why would they?
Oh, WoW's worst numbers. Well, 4.07 million, thereabouts midway through DFA, and during Shadowlands, even with Classic helping, 4.5 million. One thing that actually does make me feel good about these numbers is the scale, though, because in the earnings call, again, covering Classics release, Blizzard said it was the sharpest growth in history, and that they essentially doubled their subscribers. And if you go back to the Annotated chart, you can see from 4.07 million to 8.27 million, which basically is doubling. So I'm very confident that on that graph, yes, it's 0 on the y-axis. That is its starting point. And that I actually really do respect. A lot of companies will try to fudge the data by not labeling the y-axis or being a bit funny with it. That they really do seem to be just giving out the actual trends. That's honestly quite refreshing. So I suppose.
Well, the reason why they're doing it is because the trends look good. Like, this is a very good trend for them to be having, especially if you contextualize it with everything that's happened in, like, the game. This is a good trend. So, of course, they're showing the numbers. Blizzard stopped talking about subscriber numbers because the number kept going down.
So that's sub numbers, but there are other primary things. Blizzard is all about revenue. They used to see a lot more now than they used to.
And that's what I'm curious about, is because whenever I hear this, I'm thinking to myself, they're probably talking about revenue.
Jumping forward into the 6 to 12 sub-teams. The thing is, there's probably over twice as expensive. I mean, it is. Headcount is like over, I think it's still over double what it was. is, but our sub-boost and the expansion box prices went up that much. So I think clearly, we're doing quite a bit of work. Because yes,
Absolutely.
the World of Warcraft team is, I think, just shy of 6 million people. It really is quite massive, and that is far larger than it was in the past. And say, you know, the likes of Wrath of the Lich King. A team that would look tiny compared to the current one.
Yeah.
And of course, that's when they had 12.1 million subscribers. So that is basically it. I cannot wait for this talk to properly get out there so we can actually just break it down, go through all the detail. I think this is really, really cool. Of course, at GDC, this is a case where they will be doing a presentation to fellow developers. Like, you don't just walk into GDC. Those tickets are pretty damn expensive. I should know because one of us is over there right now doing GDC things.
I think I might go next year. I haven't decided.
To be clear, he did not go to this talk.
I had a lot of people told me that I should have gone.
Sources, shall we say. But knowing that this will be going public, not super far in the future, I kind of feel comfortable